All right, welcome back. We are Game 2014 in the fall 2020 semester, Mobile Game Development 1, and George Brown, and it's week 13, part 2 of our broadcast. So last time we took care of this part, and now we're going to do camera shake and simple sound effects. If we can get to Minimap by the end, I'll try. Let's see how it goes. All right. So let's bring up Unity. So what I want to do now is think about how to get simple sounds into the game. Okay, and we're going to do it simple this time around. Next week we may add some additional structures to help us. For example, an audio manager, which I may put together next week. We'll see how it goes. So what we want to do here is we want to generate some sounds first. So I want to use this project. I want to make a sounds folder. So make a new folder called sounds. It's where we're going to store all the sounds we're going to make in here. But let's make them. And there's a couple of links I put up on our week 13 module. I put up BFXR, which is a very common one. BFXR looks like this. In order for you to get there at first, just to let you know, because both this and chiptone are flash enabled. So if I click on the link and I pull up BFXR, it's going to look like this, right? Actually, it probably won't. You have to go here and change to flash to allow, and then restart your browser. So that's BFXR. The other one that I like a lot, we're going to also explore, is chiptone. So those are the two. You can use one or both. It's up to you. Chiptone is also flash enabled, and it's kind of a web application that they've made. People have made for free. So let's take a look at BFXR first, and you guys should have seen these already. One thing to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second, and I'm going to reshare my screen with computer sounds, so that way you can hear them. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to hear the sounds at all. Let's try that again. Share my screen with computer sounds. The right screen. There we go. All right, so I can make sounds like, for example, I want to make a hit sound. So when the player gets hit by a bullet or by by the enemy, he'll make a hit sound. So here's some hit sounds. Right? Right, so a few sounds, and you can choose one you like. I have some that I've recorded previously. Here's one that I'm going to use, and this one, and I think number 7. So those are the 3 that I want to use. You can also record some jump sounds. So I've recorded this jump sound, something like that. I've got some other ones that are up here that I've done earlier. It doesn't matter. You should experiment to pick one that makes sense for you. So here's one that I like, or this one, this one, the jump sound. One thing I thought was that this is pretty loud, and again, you can change the gain. You can do all kinds of stuff here inside of BFXR, right? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use Unity to do that. So I'm going to save the jump sound, this one. So save. Export wave. Again, you can make your own sounds, not a big deal. I'm going to go into that folder, so lab 10B, assets, sounds. And I'm going to save jump. I'm going to change this to jump from jump 7. I'm also going to get hurt 1 and save it there. Export wave. And I want to choose hurt. We're going to call this hit 1. I'm going to get a few different samples, right? So we can randomize some stuff to make it more interesting. And I think it's number 7 I like. Again, you can decide what you like. I'm just picking some sounds. I'm picking 3, right? And I want to get all the sounds done. I also know that when I die, I want to make kind of a dying sound. There is in chip tone, that's the other one. There is a lose sound. Let's try those ones. Right, there's that one. That's okay, but maybe a little bit faster. Not bad. Right. Maybe that one. Maybe what I'll do is I'll add some additional things. You can turn on harmony, or tremolo's not bad. Let's see if I make a square wave. It's not bad. Ring. No. Kind of like that. Alright, that's just me. I'm choosing this weird wave that sounds like right? Let's play that again. So it's a little bit stunted though. I'm wondering if I just like that better. I think I like that more. So you can also make it so that the amplitude and the frequency and the speed, I want to make the speed of this whole thing faster, right? So I want it to decay a lot faster than it is. So you can increase the speed. There you go. That's pretty good. But I think it's still too long, so let's make it decay even more. Same thing over here. Sorry, it's just gotta go this way. There. Not too fast. There we go. I'm not sure if I like the square. Let's try the round. No. If I'm going to do it, it's going to be that. Alright, so that's pretty good. Again, just sound generators. Let's use this save wave and put it, we'll call this the die sound. Okay, so I've saved a few of them. Let's see what they look like in Unity. So here I've got the die sound. We can play it here live. Hit. Right, hit 2. Let's see what this looks like. Or hit 3. And how about jump? So the jump sound is going to be like this every time. Right, so I'm going to jump and do a few things like that. Okay, great. So I've got my sounds. Now where to connect them. Okay. I like it. I like it. You can use whatever sound you like, but any kind of thing is cool. Again, I'm just using some simple sounds for this. So one strategy is to attach it to the player, right? So advantage to this is that the player doesn't have to find another object with all kinds of sounds. Disadvantage is that the way the sounds are indexed are going to be messy. But remember, what I like to do is make it work first. We can always bring the sounds into another game object like an audio manager or something like that later. For now, I'm just going to attach to the player. So the first one is going to be the jump sound, and I'm just going to drag and drop. For the first one, it's no problem. I can drag and drop a sound and move it up, so that's no problem. And I'm going to turn off play on awake, because I don't want it to play every time I sing, every single time I start. And I'm also going to reduce the volume to like 0.5, because I felt that was pretty loud, right? All right. I'm not going to loop it, that's for sure. And if I want to add another one like that, well, it's just going to replace this one. So I got to add some more components. I'm going to add in some audio sources. So I'm going to say, here's an audio source. And for this audio source, it's going to be the hit sound. I'm going to make all the hit sounds together too. So let's move this up. And I'll do the next one. Again, this is why this is not the great idea to do. But we're talking about making it work first, getting it up and going. And then we can talk about how to make improvements. Move up. So this is hit 2. I definitely don't want to make play and awake there. And I definitely don't want to put play and awake there. Let's add another one. Audio list audio source. Right? And this is hit 3. There we go. And move that up. And the last one being, let's make sure that this one does not play and awake. And the last one being the die sound. Alright, so let's add that in. And in here, we're going to just drag and drop the die sound. Again, let's not play and awake. And let's move that one up. Okay, so there's all your play sounds. That's wonderful. All your sources. And what we want to do now is we want to use our... oh, that's a glitch. We want to use our player behavior script, right? So that way we can index some of these sounds. And we know there's a couple ways to do this. One is to create a enumeration where this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That is definitely a way. And I think I might do it that way, just to appease Russ, because I know Russ likes enums. I like enums too, to be honest. So let's go at the top here. Needs more enums. I agree. I'm going to go to the top here, and just temporarily, remember we just want to make it work, I'm going to make a new public enum class. I'm going to call this audio, or maybe impulse sounds. Impulse sounds. So that's what they are. And the first one is obviously going to be the jump sound, followed by hit 1, hit 2, hit 3, and die. Those are the ones we have so far, impulse sounds, and they're ordered exactly how I've put them on up on the player. I'm going to system.serialize this so I can use it anywhere. Okay. And that means I can lift this whole piece here and put it in its own file, which I will try and do later, if I remember. Next, what I want to do is I want to make structures. So we're going to be below the dust trail area. We're going to make a new header. And we're going to call this audios, or we'll call it sounds. Well, we'll call it impulse sounds. How about that? Impulse sounds. The first one is going to be a public audio source, which we're going to call the jump sound, right? Okay. Or what we could do, instead of make impulse sounds, we can have an audio source array. How about that? That's better, right? An audio source array called impulse sounds, or just sounds. Okay. So what I want to do is, when I'm here in my start, I want to find all the sounds. So I'm going to go to say something like sounds is equal to get components, right? More than one component, and it's going to be audio manager or audio source. So I'm going to get an array of components. That's what this is going to return, right? An array of audio source components that is going to sit inside of my sounds, which my sounds is an audio source array, which means when I do this, and if I just do this by itself, I haven't associated them yet. I'm just going to do one of these, right? And right, what I'm going to do is, if I press play, and if I look at sounds now, you can see that they're all listed in the order. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And this is good. I don't have to drag and drop. I don't have to do drag and drop mapping. I don't want that. I want each of these sounds to be different things. And this way I can select which sound I need based on my enumeration, which makes more logical sense to me. Cool. So I've got these sounds. Now I don't have to show them here on the inspector. I'm showing them because I want control. I agree with you, Cap. I think it's not the right way to do it. Like I said, I think the better way to do it is to create an array through programmatically and put it up inside of the audio source. But here we're just making it work. And I definitely think that we need an audio manager further down the line, which would be the better way of doing it. More control too. You can create an audio mixer and a bunch of other stuff. All right, so we have our impulse sounds, and what I want to do is, depending on the sound that I want, I'm just going to use the enumeration as an index in order for me to play that sound. So pretty straightforward. But what I want to do is I want to play a couple things. If I'm just playing the jump, that's pretty simple, right? So that's the first sound. So again, in the move area, I'm going to go down to where the jump area is here, and when I'm jumping, I'm also going to say that, okay, sounds. And inside there, I'm going to use an enumeration. Now, I can't just say audio, or impulse sounds dot and then die or jump. I can't just do this as an example because this, by default, is an enumeration. I need to cast it as an int, which works. So it's not exactly beautiful if I did it this way, but it at least tells me what I'm trying to play. Sounds dot play. I can do it this way, okay? But this, my friends, is quite an ugly affair, right? Not really nice and stuff. It would be nice if I had some kind of method that I pass in the thing that I want to play that sound, okay? But for now, again, I'm just making it play. So this is the jump sound. Let's just see if this works. So again, I'm going back to this, and every time I jump, we should hear the sound if I did everything correct. So, right? Pretty good. All right, so that's that. And what I want to do is when I get hit, when I take damage, I want to play a random hit sound. That requires a little bit more code. So let's go down here. So I'll say play random hit sound. And what I want to do is I want to use my sounds that I have, and whatever that sound is, I want to select it. So random hit sound, right? And I want to get a number between 1 or 0, because 1 is my hit sound number 1, and 3 is my range. So going back to what Kat said, not the best way of doing it, but let's suppose I want a random range, right? So there's some options here. Random dot range, and my random dot range is going to go from min to max. So from 1, which is inclusive, to max, which is exclusive, right? Or max, sorry, max is inclusive. Min to max, where max is inclusive, right? And so 1 to 3. 1, 2, 3, right? And that's going to be my random hit sound. And what I'm going to say is, hey sounds, random hit sound, dot play. Okay, so play the random hit sound. Okay, hopefully it won't hit the other ones by accident. So here's my random hit sound. So where do I want to play that? Whenever I get hit. So when I'm getting hit, as an example, when I'm taking damage, let's go to definition. When I'm taking damage, I want to play that random hit sound. So play random hit sound. There we go. Cool. So whatever that random hit sound is. And when I die, I want to play the die sound. Go to definition. I only die once in a while, and I want to just play that thing. So I'm going to say sounds, and then int and then impulse sounds dot die. Now this is interesting. I know I put die last, right? Oops, dot play. Okay, but die is 4, which is what it is. But again, pretty precarious the way I put it in, right? It doesn't really call the right thing. What I should be able to do is say, I want to play the die sound, and it should know what that sound is. It should be a bank of sounds that I've added. I do it programmatically instead of randomly through this way. You can do it through loading a resource. That's a way of doing it as well. And adding, creating the audio source programmatically, which is the right way to do it. We just don't have time to code it today. Okay. So again, I'm going to impulse die play if I lose a life. All right. So let's check this one. This one's easy to check. So again, go back to the game. And we'll play. And we'll fall. Right? Okay, good. Stops at the game over. We know that that's going to be a thing we have to fix. And what we're going to do is obviously place new music and all that kind of stuff throughout the level to mask that issue, right? Because we don't want that to happen. So this is good. And when we die, it's almost laughing at us, the game. All right. Well, what about when we get hit? And this is where we have issues, right? So we have a lot of issues, but this is specifically a place where we have issues. So let's put this in play and see what happens when I get hit by a bullet. So I'm not going to let him hit me, but right, that's pretty good, right? And let's see if do I get random sounds? Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. What happens when I hit him? Well, he's got an issue. That was pretty cool. I like that. The interaction and the sound sounded good as an example. And I want to kind of go in here and see what happens when he hits me, right? So, yeah, okay, I don't care about you trying to hit me, but I want to care about you hitting me. And it stops. So this is a problem. Like I said, I want to make it so that he's eating you, right, when he's there, right? It doesn't just hit you and stop, right? That's not good. So if you're like this or if you're against a wall, he's going to continue to take health off every round, right? So in order for us to have that happen, we need to change our code. So under the player behavior, right, we get damaged when we enter a collision with the enemy. But here we've entered the collision, yeah, but it won't trigger again until we enter the collision again. So we need another one. Let's use the same collision detection scheme. There's other ways to do this, of course. But let's use on collision stay 2D. Now this is different. If I did this, then it would do 15 damage in a series of attacks very, very quickly. And it would, as soon as I touched the character, they would die. All right, like very, very quickly. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. So let's try this again. And then let's go back. And I try it out. And you can see that we've got our little opossum, and he's very hungry, and he wants to eat our character. So, or maybe scratch him with his claws or whatever. So he hits him a couple times with the spit, and then boom, one hit. Right? Why is that? And there's nothing I can do because as long as I stay there, I'm going to, be hit. Right? So we want to moderate that a little bit. First of all, this damage is insane. 15 every frame is a lot, right? He'll die very quickly. Let's cut it down to 5, and even that might be too much. I want to do that same trick we used last time, which is I want to use time.frameCount as a timer. So I can say something like, if time.frameCount divided by, let's say, something like 20, right, is equal to 0. So we're looking for every 20 frames, right? Even number of frames every 20th frame, right? That's what I'm looking for here. If that's the case, then only then do I want to take damage. So that way it's not all the time. So it's almost like a damage delay. So it'll give a player a chance to run away, right? So damage delay. Again, what we could put in here with this damage delay is we can make this, instead of it being fixed like this, we can make it so that it appears on the inspector. I'm not going to do that here. Same thing with the damage, this damage type and stuff that we're putting in here. It's hard coded, and maybe later on we want to change this so that the enemy itself tells us the damage we're getting, not the player. Because otherwise the player would have to keep track of everything. And this is one big, massive script later on. It's too big already. Alright, at least for what it has to do. Alright, so let's see how that works. Is it better? Alright, so we'll play the game again. And we'll, for time's sake, we'll get this guy over there. And let's control what happens to him. And let's see if I can actually get away. Right? Still pretty good. I got beat. But it wasn't like I was getting beat where I couldn't do something about it, right? Let's see what happens. Right? So, I mean, I was able to get away, right? So, and even if I get hit again, right, I can still overcome. I'm not completely dead. But if I get hit one more time, he's done, right? So that's not bad. I'm pretty happy with that result, again. And if I fall, well, then I'm going to die. All right, so that is pretty good in terms of our damage. So we've made sense of our damage and as well as the sounds. Okay, but here's what I really want. When I get hit, I want my screen to shake, right, to make it more dramatic. Again, this is going back to the whole juice it or lose it idea, right? We've got particles, we've got sounds. We're going to put screen shake in here, and once we create a screen shake ability, then we can use it for other things too. So how do we accomplish screen shake? Well, we're halfway there already, my friends. Why? Because we have Cinemachine. Here's Cinemachine. And going back to our virtual camera, the way we would accomplish screen shake is, we're going to scroll down. There's this part down here called noise. Let's expand this and choose basic multi-channel purling. We have to also choose a noise profile. There's different ones. We're going to choose 6D shake. All right, 6D shake. Our amplitude is going to go down to 0 for now. You'll see what that is. And our gain, let's say we'll put that up to 5. So what is this? If I just have this, is it enough? Well, let's see what happens if I run this thing. So if I'm running this thing, and let's say we're here, right? And I want to shake the screen, then if I increase my amplitude, you can see that automatically my screen will shake. Okay? So that's what it looks like. So the bigger the amplitude, if I go crazy, it's going to make it shake like crazy. All right? Too much, obviously. If I go to 0, so it goes from a 0 to whatever. Okay? Frequency gain is the amount of compounding waves that you're going to get with this one. So if I went as low as 1, then it's obviously, even if I went with my amplitude, you can see that it's not as crazy, right? The higher the frequency gain, the more shake that you have. The amplitude gain, what it does is it's how much it goes up and down, right? Frequency gain is like how fast it shakes. Okay, so that's the two factors we have to work with. All right, so let's put this at 0, and let's keep this something like, you know, our frequency gain. Let's put this at 1 for now, and we'll see how it works. Okay, so I'm going to go back. Let's make this 1. So I've got the mechanism. Now I just need to hook into it. Well, that means I need to reference the camera, right? So let's do that referencing first. So again, back to player. It's too much. Player should be this stuff should be broken up into separate scripts. But again, we're making it work first, and then maybe next week we'll home. What we want here at the top is we want to add another section where we want to call this screen shake. And underneath the screen shake section, I want to have a public reference. I want to have a public reference to our virtual camera. So Cinemachine virtual camera. Okay, that's what I want. I want to call this VCam1 because we know that that's what that is. So that's the first thing. I need reference to that, and we can get that in here, right, where I want to get a reference to the virtual camera. So I'll say that VCam1, right, is equal to get component, and then again it's Cinemachine virtual camera. Okay, so that's what that is. Now this is where it gets a little crazy. I want to get access to that Perlin noise attribute. So public Cinemachine, right? And I want to get that basic multi-channel Perlin. That's what it's called. And we're just going to call this Perlin, just to make it easy. So it's using Perlin noise to create a randomness, right? A stochastic order, if you will, right? It's kind of, it's a weird, ironic way of putting it. But anyways, so again, a Perlin noise, we're going to get a pseudo-random set of values so we can shake our camera. You're correct. This is going to have to be find objects of type. Sorry. That's what I meant. And then what I want to do is I want to say Perlin is equal to VCam1 dot, again, it's going to be the same thing I put before. Cinemachine, get component, which is going to be of type Cinemachine basic multi-channel Perlin. In angle brackets, please, not in these other brackets. Okay. Does that make sense? So that's the first. So the first part is, again, I'm going to separate these so that you know there's separate area in the start. VCam1 is your virtual camera. Perlin is the Perlin noise component, if you will, in the multi-channel, kind of area, the basic multi-channel noise section. All right. Now, once we get this, once we have this together, we have these two components, then I can just access this. But I want to create a camera shake effect. So going down to this, I'm going to go back down to the private area. I'm going to make another little method called shake camera. And when I shake the camera, I'm going to do this. I'm going to say Perlin dot, and this is going to be funny, but I want to access a value that's private, m underscore amplitude gain, right? It's going to be equal to 1. I want to go to the whatever it's going to be, if I want to turn it right on. But actually what we'd want to do, instead of turning it right on all the time, what if we want another value? What if I want that amplitude to be like 5, 10, 20? So instead of it being a fixed value like this, let's go back up to the top and add in additional features. So I want to have two things. I want to have intensity and I want to have a time. So public float. So it's going to be shake intensity and public float shake, or we'll call it max shake time. Okay, and I also want a public float shake timer, right, which is something that I'm going to keep track of the shake time. So those three things. So shake intensity, maximum shake time, shake timer. All right, going back down to here then, I want to say that Perlin M amplitude gain, instead of being 1, is going to be shake intensity, whatever I decide to put it. All right, and that's only when shake camera is activated. Now we need a timer, and the timer needs to count down. So what we're going to do is inside of our main loop, which is inside of our update function here, right? Again, for now, I'm not going to make it a method. It's just going to be a timer. And I'm going to say something that looks like this. I'm going to say if, oh, this is something else I have to say. Is camera shaking? I got to detect when it's shaking and when it's not shaking. All right, because if it's shaking, then I want to count down. If it's not shaking, then I don't want to count down. All right. Yes, you could definitely make it a coroutine. I'm just trying to show you another way of using a timer. So we'll call this public bool is camera shaking. And by default, is camera shaking is going to be false. It's not shaking by default. And I'm going to say if is camera shaking, if that's true, then what I want to do is I'm going to give, I'm going to remove time.delta time from my shaker. So I'm going to say that my shake timer, right, minus equals to time.delta time. But we need to set my shake timer at some point to the maximum time, right? So that's going to be probably up here, where I say something like shake timer is equal to max shake time. So start it off whatever the max shake time is, and then count backwards. So minus equal to delta time, and I can say simply that if shake timer is less than or equal to 0.0f, we've finished our time, we've timed out. This is timed out, right? This is another way of doing a timer, guys. I've actually shown you 3 ways. Coroutine, which is really good, but not always the best way. Some kind of frame count, which we've done from a delay perspective, and this is another one, which you're actually counting, your shake timer itself is counting down. All right, there's the other way of doing it as well. Yes, you could definitely use a coroutine. So if shake timer is less than or equal to 0, then what happens? Well, we want to turn our intensity right back down again. So we're going to say perlin dot m amplitude gain is equal to 0.0. So we're going to turn off the gain. We're also going to say that the shake timer is going to be equal again to the max shake time. And we're also going to turn is shaking to false. All right, so this is what's going to happen. So it's going to be false. And when we're shaking, which is way down here, we can say that is camera shaking is true. We turn it off, turn it on. So this is like a switch that goes on inside of our update. We check to see if it's on. If it's on, start counting down every frame. Okay. If my shake timer is less than or equal to 0, if we've timed out, then turn it off. Reset the shake timer, and then set the switch to off, so we can come back here again. All right, pretty straightforward. And when do we want to use this shake timer? Let's try it on when we die. Okay, for now. So every time we die, we're going to shake the camera. This isn't what we're going to do at the end, but I'm going to show you so we can test it, right? So every time we lose a life, I'm going to go to definition so we can test it really fast. What I want to do is I'm going to play a sound and shake the camera. So we'll say camera shake, or shake camera. I think is what I called it, shake camera. All right, let's see how this works. Does it work? And this is what we're going to test it. Then we're going to test it with whenever we get hit by, you know, our beastie. All right, let's try this out and let's see how it goes. So we're playing and I die. Okay, a bit of shake. Let's try that again. Not sure if it was enough. It shook, but you know what we forgot to do? We forgot to put values in here. So inside of our player, we have values that are 0, or shake timer is nothing, or shake intensity is nothing. Let's put a shake intensity of 2, right? Let's make our max shake time something like 0.3 seconds, and our shake timer is going to match this for now. Let's see how this looks and go from there. So again, we're going, and then we fall. Meh. Maybe it needs to be more powerful. Let's make it a shake of 5. That's hard to see, isn't it? Let's see. Try that again. Oh yeah. Did it reset? Or did it keep my values? Yeah, let's go to 5. Shake intensity is that good. Let's try it out again. It's not bad. Again, I'm not sure I want to go more than 0.3, but it works, is what I'm trying to say. And if you look at the shake timer, it actually counts down nicely. Take a look at that. So if I turn it on, it just counts back. So that's how it works. Okay. Now that we know it works, let's try it where we can see it more here, right? And we can get a lot more hitting happening. So I'm going to take my shake timer out of here. Loss of life is not where I want to have that happen because it's so, you know, can't hardly see it. But we can put it when we're taking damage. So go to definition. And whenever we take damage, we want to play a random hit sound and we want to shake the camera. Okay? So let's try that out. And let's see how that works. So let's do it. And just for the essence of time, I'm just going to grab our little guy over here and move him. And let's see what happens when they get hit. Right? Okay, so it looks totally like it's working. Now let's try it in the view. Right? So get hit. That's okay. I'm not sure if I like it. I think it needs more. Right? So, and maybe even longer. Like a shake time that, so again, I'm going back to my player. Maybe the intensity should be 5 and the length should be 0.5. So like half a second, it goes, shakes for half a second every time that it gets hit, max. Right? Remember the shake timer will get reset so it doesn't continue to go forever. If I had a coroutine in here, I would continue shaking for a while because each one of them would trigger, right, its own asynchronous instance, which is not what I want. Okay, let's get hit. Oh. Whoa, that's better. Yeah, that's good. I like it. Yeah, pretty good. I'm happy with that. Now, how do you guys feel about it? What are your thoughts around that, guys? So again, camera shake. So we've just to go through what we've talked about right now, we've done all of this so far. Okay. Minimap, I'm not sure, it's 227. It can be done. It's gonna be tight though, that's all. Let's think about doing this now. And first we'll put it up on GitHub. So again, feedback, what do you think about the camera shake? Again, camera shake can be used for anything. Camera shake can be used for attacking. You can change your intensity in here for the screen, if not just being by getting hit, but also by firing bullets or whatever. You can also use it for things like grenade or explosion effects. Now again, you can change the shake intensity for those. To make it more palatable, right, and to make it more useful, what we probably would do is put this into a method or its own script where we can pass in the intensity that I want, right? So it would still have the same mechanism, the same stuff here, but the shake intensity would have to do with whatever effect that I wanted. So example, there was an explosion, I might have a big shake intensity. If I'm firing a bullet, I might have a smaller shake intensity. If I jump, I might have a small shake intensity. If I hit something like a wall, I bump into a wall, or if I drop from a certain length, kind of take a long fall, maybe there'll be another kind of shake intensity. So you can kind of change it up. Well, again, it really depends on how you use it, right? Like if it looks a little weird, I don't know. I kind of like it. So again, you're kind of there, and then you jump. This is the blocking point because of my controls. There. Yeah, I mean, he's getting eaten, right? So again, it's just another place to give the we're trying to give the player feedback. Now here's something else we can do. We can shake the screen, but we can also rumble the device rumble. So that's something we can hit next week. Talk about rumble and other special effects related to mobile. So far, all these things that we've talked about, although we're restricting ourselves to a small screen, can be used for any game. All right, so this is pretty good. So what about a mini-map? Well, how can we use this? We don't have a very big level, but for example, let's say I want to get an advanced view similar to what Terraria does. So let's say if you look at Terraria, let's take a look at that. Yeah. And if you look at Terraria screenshots, right, just to give you an idea, right, you can pull up a map. So here, this is a great example of that, where you have a bit of a smaller view of, is that Terraria? Yeah. You have a smaller view of what the land looks like, your level looks like ahead of time. Now this is quite tricky. Let's see if I can look at Terraria Minimap instead, so we get a better view. Yeah, I mean, what it does is it gives you a cutout of what your level looks like ahead of time. So something that looks like this. So almost like a pulled out view, and we share something in a corner that's up here, and then in there we can take a look at where you are physically, especially if it's a large level. It's really helpful to have something like this. Okay, or if the level is multi-level, right, if it goes up and down as opposed to just side to side, this is also a good thing to give you a bird's eye view, if you will, or a side view of where you're at. It works great for other things. If you're working on a top-down view for a 2D game, this would work great as well. Here we're doing a platformer, so we have to be careful to make sure that it accomplishes what we want. So what do we do? Well, I've actually given you some assets. So if you look at the textures, there are some assets here. We have a circle map, which I'm going to be using, an enemy marker, as well as a player marker. All right, so those are the things we have here. Again, I'm not sure if we're going to finish this today because there's a lot of piece parts to this whole thing. So first thing what I'd like to do is save, file, save project, and let's put this up on GitHub so you guys have everything I have. So a git add dot git commit -m, I'll say added sounds and screen shape, git push. So you have all my code. And this way it'll give you everything you need, so just in case you want to reference it at some point. For example, hint, hint, on your final test, you might need something where you look back and I might ask you to fill in the blanks or do something with it. You can see some examples of the things that I'm asking you to do. All I'm doing is actually I'm giving you a bunch of components for a game, and we're putting them together in a simple example. And we haven't really done level creation yet, like a lot of deep level making, but that's not really specific to mobile, right? Actually, a lot of this stuff isn't specific to mobile, but we're going to make it. We're using this user kind of a viewport story, kind of to talk about what it's like. Okay, so I only have this screen size, and I want to walk over here, right? And what I want to do is I want to have in the top right corner of my screen some kind of mini-map that I want to have. So we need a couple of things here. One thing I need is another texture. So I'm going to have another camera, and the camera is going to be oriented in a way that it's going to be looking at the level from back here, right? This size. So not where this is, but rather way back here. Okay? So I'm going to see the whole level as opposed to just part of the level. Okay? So one thing we need to do is render that view so that it appears in our canvas. So we're going to need a new texture type, which is called a render texture. So I'm going to go to render texture. Here it is. And the render texture itself that I'm going to use, we have to rename this thing so it's reasonable for what we're doing, right? I'm going to call this Minimap render texture, obviously. Okay, there it is. So Minimap render texture. Nice, nice. So this is going to be the target. This is what we're going to use for us to target the object itself, right? This is what we're going to be using the render texture as something that we're going to show on the screen. All right, next. What we need is a place to show the minimap, right? So again, what I want to do is I want to, there's a couple ways to do this. And one of the ways to do this is to actually have a raw image appear on the screen. So let's do that first. Again, there's a bunch of ways to do this, guys. I'm just going to do it one way. So let's go into the canvas, and on the canvas, I'm going to add a new UI element called raw image. And this raw image that's right here, I'm just going to move it so that it appears on the top right corner of the screen inside here, right? And again, if I run this thing, right, then we should see it fixed on the top right corner no matter what we do, right? When I move my object, you can see that that's where it's going to appear, somewhere up here. What I want to do is I want to make this bigger. So we're going to have to make it kind of the size we want. We also want this thing to be positioned so that it's got on the top right corner, because remember, we want to be sensitive to mobile screens, right? And also respect that in the simulator, this is going to be inside of the safe area. So something like that. Maybe even, and if I was going to look at the raw image itself, we might see this raw image as the minimap texture, because that's what it really is, right? So this itself is the mini renderer, right? So mini render, we'll call it that. And that mini render we're going to use on the top right corner. I'm going to attach it to the top right corner. That's where it's going to be anchored here, right? As an example. You want it to be fairly large, right? Right now it's sitting at 438 by 316 width and height. Because remember, if it's too small, then it's not even going to be usable, right? So let's make it so that we make it something reasonable. Let's say something square-ish right now. Like example, something like 360 by 360. I don't think anything smaller than that is something that we want. All right. Next, I want to drag and drop. I want to drag and drop the Minimap renderer, right, to my texture. So now you see it disappear. Does that make sense? Why is it disappearing? Because, well, it's not getting information from anywhere. This is the raw image, right? Now I need another camera. So right now we have a main camera. I want to make another camera, right? So again, I want to make a new camera. We got to be careful because the camera itself is going to be something that looks down here. Let's take a look at what the camera is looking at, right? It's looking at this. Okay. Here's the camera. And that's pretty long. I don't think I need it to be that far away. Maybe 100 max, I would think. Even that's probably long, maybe even 10. We have a lot of control here for what we're seeing. Okay. I'm not sure, but 10 is even far away. That's the near plane. And we're looking at perspective. I want to make it an orthographic camera. Right? So again, if I make it too short, like 10, and also in the transform, it's got to make sense. So something like 0, 0, and then minus 10. So we can see it. So let's make it slightly farther than 10. Let's make it like, I don't know, 20. You can see here that we see a lot more. And why the size is 5, but we can go higher. We can go 10. And even more. Let's say something like 20. Where we can see the entire level right here. Okay. Again, right now I'm not specifically choosing a place where it's looking. Okay. I'm just trying to generate the texture itself. So this is what it really looks at, and notice that my camera is looking at this whole entire space, right? I don't really care where it's looking or what, maybe there's more up here or more down there, but I want to target this entire camera. So instead of it going nowhere, and we don't need an audio listener, by the way, let's get rid of that extra audio listener. We want to target the target render texture. So we want to choose Minimap render texture, right? That's what it's going to look at. Right. Now, let's go back and look at our simulator and see what we see. Look, there's that little area right there. It's actually transparent, and it appears right in here as a small little area on the top right corner of the screen. Okay? And if I run this thing, and let's just zoom out, you can see that as I run, you can't really see my character because it's really small, but as I run, you can see that I have a sense of where on the map my character is. My map isn't currently moving, right? And I would basically move this thing with the character, okay? I'm moving it with the character. It's almost as if I need to use another virtual camera, right? So this is like the Minimap camera. That's what this is. So let's call this what it is. Okay, so we're almost halfway there. I mean, we've got an image that's on the screen, right? This is where it will appear. We need a bounding area for this. So what I can do on the inside of the canvas is I want to add another image. So I want to add another image. So we're going to go UI image, which is up here. And I want to go to it. So where is that? That is right here. And I want to put it in the same approximate area as this thing. So again, I want to do the same kind of thing like this. I want to grab the exact location. So in the mini renderer, I want to grab these positions, minus 418 and 257. So I want to grab those, minus 418 and 257 for that image, right? So now that's perfectly centered around the other thing, right? And what I want to do is I want to make this image slightly bigger than the image on the background. All right, so the image on the background, right now it's 360 by 360. We'll make this 380 by 380. Let's do that. And we're going to layer this behind the renderer. So we're going to put it behind. This canvas order and layer matters, right? So I want to put this thing behind the renderer, and we're going to call this thing itself we're going to call it the Minimap. Okay. So the Minimap, and we're going to layer this one inside of this one, right? So we're going to say that one is inside of the other one, right? Minimap, and we're going to make, actually let's undo that change first. We're going to make this one the same size. We're going to say this one was 360 by 360. This one's going to be 380 by 380. Okay, so it kind of shows up this way, and it creates almost like a black background effect. But remember, we don't have the background. If I was going to add the background in there, you can see that actually does the background in there like this. So it actually accomplishes our goal in some ways, right? And if I was to run this thing, you can see that, yeah, indeed I have a Minimap. I can see where I'm at. It's not moving, but I can see my little guy in there, and it's almost like a reflection in a very longer way of what I can see. And you can back this camera up as much as you want to see more. Getting there. All right, so going back to that Minimap, we want to put the Minimap, you can have different source images, and let's use one of the source images I gave you, which is a circle. So inside of your assets textures, I gave you a circle map. Let's drag that in, right? So notice that the circle map is kind of outside the area of this thing, right? I want to duplicate it. So here's my Minimap. I want to duplicate this one. So Control D for duplicating. And now we're going to do this so that it is here. So there's two. There's a Minimap, and there's a mini render, And this mini map itself is, we're going to call it the mini mask. Okay, my mini mask. And I want to put this inside of the mini map and the mini render inside of the mini mask, like so. So it's kind of that order in layer kind of thing. Mini map, mini mask, mini render. Okay. One step at a time, right? So the mini map is the back layer, right? I want to make the mini mask, this part, smaller. So it's going to be the same size as the other layer. So we're going to say it's 360, right, by 360. So smaller in terms of size, right? The outside is 380 by 380. The inside is 360 by 360. Okay. Right. And what we want to do is we want to create a. We want to use the second one as a mask. All right. That's what we want, a mask. And so. And we're going to make it so that the minimap itself, right, is maskable. See how it says is maskable? Well, we don't have a mask component. But on the mini mask, right, we're going to add a new component. If I put in mask, right? And what this does is it's going to create the mask for the object. Okay, so again, going over it, mini map on the back. Mini mask on the front with a mask component. Okay, that's what it does. On the very front, the bottom is the mini render, which is where everything is going to render, the render texture itself. Now, what I want to do is make this even bigger. Notice that where it is right now, and you can use any mask, any kind of shape. You want to make a hexagon or some other weird kind of shape, it's totally possible. What we want to do here, instead of in the mini render, is make this much bigger now. Let's go to like 400 by 400. And now, it's almost perfect. See, there's a bit of a gap there. Let's make it even bigger. And you can also offset this camera, but let's make it so it's on a 420 by 420. There, that's the biggest you're going to get. All right, so it's being masked, so you're only seeing one part of it. So now what you get is, on the front end, you get this little mask. And if I run it, then if I move, you can see that this part doesn't move, but actually shows me the background of where I'm at, right? Good. Now, what about if I want to show the player here? Okay. So I want to show the player on the minimap, like right in here. Okay, because it's really small. And I want to mask the player by showing some kind of additional object on top of the player object himself. Okay. So a couple ways to accomplish this. One way is we want to make an object. First of all, one thing to note for this whole thing is that the map itself isn't moving, right? It's not centered on the player. And so we can do a couple things here. This is what we can attempt, and this is where I'm going to go with this. So my minimap camera, it can be another virtual camera, right? It can be. So is there a way of doing something? And also I have a skybox with clear flags and all this kind of stuff. Let's get rid of skybox with solid color. Our background can be completely black. We don't care about that, right? Our orthographic is right. 20 size is good. But what if I wanted to add another virtual camera? So if I said Cinemachine as an example, can I put in a virtual camera? Can I do that here? And what happens? Is that possible? Well, yes. Right? And what I can do with the virtual camera, just because like anything else I want to do, I can keep it simple, because I can have as many virtual cameras as I want. It's transmitting here, as opposed to where it was before. What I need to do is, I want to follow the player again. So again, I'm going to go player, follow. And now, when I look at it, I can see this. So when I'm following, now both this and the mini mask is moving, and I should be able to stay fairly constant, right? But now we got a bit of issues. And I want to point this out because I don't want you guys to feel like there's not a problem. So player behavior shake camera, it says. Perlin, whatever. Well, what is it looking at, right? It's trying to get, here's something it's trying to find. It's trying to find an object, right? With, and this is the way we've done it. We've done it where we want to try and find an object that is my Sin Machine basic multi-channel Perlin, and I'm finding it by finding the first object of type. That's random. We don't know which one we're finding. This is going to be a problem that we're going to have to handle somehow. So a couple ways to do this is drag and drop. That's one way we can do it. So instead of doing it this way, VCam, we can remove the reference from here, right? And we can go back to our game. And in our game, we can change the reference to the player. So if I go back to player, and where I have my VCam 1, I can drag and drop VCam 1 in there. That's why I named it that way. Yay, awesome. And now we shouldn't have that problem as much anymore, because we don't have that issue, right? So one thing I was worried about, was a couple of things actually, was the fact that this guy was shaking up like crazy. Okay, but I mean, still, it's okay. But one thing to notice is that, well, this isn't really changing much, right? Notice that the map, here's my player, I'm thinking that it should be center, but now he's off screen, right? Well, that's a problem. That's not acting like a VCam should. Why? We can't use this VCam the way we did it before. Why? Because, well, there's a couple of issues. One is it's not active. The only camera that's going to basically move around or use VCam is the one that's active necessarily, right? So right now, for our Minimap camera, it is, again, we can try and follow the player, but unfortunately it's like way out. Orthographic size is 10, and we can also look at a couple of other options. Remember, we didn't generate the camera by ourselves. We made the camera by hand, right? So that's something we can look at. So priority is 10, a lens is 5, near clip plane is 3, far is 1,000. We probably don't need that. Transitions, we didn't really talk about transitions at all, but we can make that stuff. And if you look here, we didn't do that at all. So this is what we looked at. Okay, so priority is 10, but orthographic size is 10. If I went, and also far clip plane is a 5,000. Doesn't make sense. Like even 100 is enough. Orthographic size could be 20, right? Which is more reasonable, closer to what we had. But again, notice that there is no appreciable effect at all, right? So here's our guy, and it's not like the camera moves along with the character, even at this long rate. Once the camera leaves the screen, well, I got a problem, right? So it's gone. So that's not going to do. So let's remove this this thing. We want to try and solve it this way. This is nice, but this doesn't make any sense. Instead, what we want is our Minimap camera to express itself similar to what we had before with our previous script. We have a script like this already that I took off. We called it the, there is a player cam script that's in here that we kept. I'm just going to repurpose it. Okay, so there's a player controller, scene controller, and then there is line of sight, a bar controller, and in here, do I not have a camera controller? Game controller, bar, bullet factory, bullet, enemy, game controller. I'm pretty sure I had one. Player behavior, player controller. Maybe it's somewhere out here. Let me search for it here under scripts. I'm going to say all scripts. So we're going to go to cam, player cam. That's funny. So I want to make sure that we had that, because I'm pretty sure we had that before. No. I had made a separate script. I don't want to clash with what I have now, and I'm wondering. I think it's somewhere else. So all models, all materials. It'd be nice if we had all scripts, but we don't. We can't see that as an option. Because normally I keep all my. That's why I keep all my scripts in here. because this way I have everything we need, so I can always check to see if I have a camera here. We're just going to call this a Minimap camera. So we're going to add a component, make a new script. We'll call it Minimap follow. And the Minimap follow is something we're going to attach. So we can't always use the same stuff. Like, we're going to have to adapt a little bit. We're going to stop after this. But even if we don't finish, guys, I don't care. This is not required. So the Minimap follow needs a reference to a public camera. So Minimap camera. And all I want to do is the Minimap camera also needs a reference to, actually I don't need that, I need a reference to the player's transform. Transform player. And what I want to do here is wherever the player's transform is, I want to back out like -10. So every frame, I'm going to say that, just like I said before, transform dot position is equal to the player dot position plus some kind of new vector3 object, which is going to be 0 here, but actually a -10 here. So this is a cheesy little script. It's going to run every frame, but you know, whatever. And I'm going to drag and drop from this script that I'm going to run. So this is the Minimap thing. I'm going to grab the player, and wherever the player is, then I'm going to move the camera. So I'm going to move the camera approximately. It's going to center itself around the player every single time. Let's see if this even works. So good. So what we should see, if I zoom out, is that the map moves now, which is what I want. Yes, and that's what we were looking at. And now we're seeing this thing glittering. And why is it flashing? Why is this thing flashing? Well, because of the order and layer problem we had before. So what is the opossum's order and layer? So opossum, again, the order and layer for the opossum sprite renderer is 0. That can't be, guys. Order and layer for the background is 0. So it's going to be something like 1 or 2. So let's make it 2 for now. Same thing as the player. And I want it to have its own layer. There might be an enemy layer that it has, but that's why it's all flashing like that. Okay. Oh, there's an error. It's pretty good. I like the shake. Let's fix that error so we can move it over before he dies. I don't know if he's going to live very long, but there he is. And let's go back to the simulator. Yeah, he died. Right, cool. Maybe. Yours turns white when the game runs. Okay, we'll deal with that after, Russell. So we're gonna time out here. So things that are missing that we haven't had a chance to do. All right, before we stop. Things that are missing is we need a marker, a player marker, and we need to represent the player in some way. Now, luckily, the camera itself, right? I can put a marker that only is visible by the camera. So example would be on the player itself, right? I can add an image, right? That now, how do I add that? How do I add an image to the player? If I said image, right, to the player object itself, right? Let's say raw image. Okay, so here's a raw image I'm trying to add onto the player, right? And I want to render it, so I can choose the player marker. Here it is. So I want to play this. I want to use this player marker to present. I want to play this player marker. Well, yeah, it's not going to show. And let me just, first of all, let me just get rid of the background just for a second. Why? Because this image itself is just a raw image, so that's not going to work. So I can do a renderer. I can do another player. I can do another object that I can render. So let's do that. So going back to this, and we'll stop after this, guys, because we're not going to finish. Like I was afraid of it, but anyways, lots of little pieces. That's the thing. So this isn't going to work. Instead, what we need is another game object. So we'll make a new empty game object, or it's like a sprite more than what we need. So I want another sprite. So it's a 2D object sprite. Okay. And the sprite itself, it needs a layer. So we're going to say this is the player marker. There it is. And it needs to be in order of layer of something like 4. Right? So way on top of the player. 5, 4, you know, whatever it's going to be. Right? Now, funny enough, it appears behind the player. But what I want is for this camera, which is going to be the, and by the way, it's not aligned properly or anything, but I want this camera, this Minimap camera, right? I don't want it to see the player. So in the everything culling mask, I don't want it to see the player layer at all, right? I don't even want it to see the health bar. So that one, and even health bars and stuff like that, we don't really have a thing for the health bar. So I'm going to go to the player health bar, and the player health bar is really untagged. Let's give it its own layer. So when I say add layer, we'll call it health bar. And in the health bar layer, again, if you guys are timing out, it's okay. I'm just going to try and finish whatever I can before I stop. Health bar. Yes. And let's also make it so that all of them are like that, right? Player health bar. What I want is for the player health bar, the way it's going to work is the main camera is going to ignore it. So it's not going to see that either. So example would be culling mask wise, it's not going to see the health bar, it's not going to see the player layer. But what it wants to see is this player marker. Player marker. So the player marker is going to be on its own layer. So we're going to say and add a layer. We're going to call this the player marker, or we'll say the markers layer, right? All markers are going to be on the same layer. Player marker is going to be on the markers layer. There it is. And the only thing we want to do is, from a camera perspective, that's the one layer that it's going to see. So we don't care about any of this stuff, so nothing. I want to see defaults, everything on the default layer, everything on the platforms layer. We want to see the walls layer. We want to see the ramps layer. We don't want to see the enemy or the player or the bullets or the AI, nothing. But we do want to see the markers layer. And now we can see the marker where it is. Okay. At the same time, our VCam, we don't want our virtual camera to see certain things either, right? So how do we take away, from a culling mask perspective, how we take away anything from there? Well, that's going to have to be done on the main camera. Main camera has got culling mask everything. We don't want to see markers. So we're never going to see markers in the main camera. Okay? So now what we want to do is rotate that marker. So under the player marker, we want to rotate it by like 90 degrees. So again, if you look at rotation on the x-axis, right? Oops, undo. I meant on the y-axis, we want to rotate it at some part. I'll be okay, finally. -90. Right? There it is, -90. So it's behind us. So we can't see it. So when the player plays, we won't be able to see it, right? Yeah. So one thing we didn't do was drag and drop the player in here when it was live. Okay. So again, if I was to play it on the Minimap, you're going to notice that way in here, right, you're going to be able to see the player marker, but it's fairly small, right? Because it's like really small like this. So you can make it bigger, right? So we can go to player marker, and this is the one we care about. We can make this like so much bigger. And so we can say something like our scale will be something like 5 times bigger. Right? Now 5 is too big, we'll make it 2, whatever works for you, because it's going to go beyond the size of the normal screen, right? So that's our player. So all we see is the player marker. And then what we do is, thanks a lot, Kat. Oh, she's gone. So let's try that again. So our player marker is going to be 2, 2, and 2. We won't be able to see this. This appears here in our view, but only because we've chosen to look at it in edit view. But here, notice that we wouldn't be able to see it, but only see it inside of the the minimap. Okay. Similarly, we would do the same thing for the enemy marker. We've timed out. We're 3:03. I'm going to stop here, but this is a great spot to test it on our simulator before we go. So file, save project, and then let's build and run. So I think this is a great opportunity. This is what it does for us is it gives us a long-range view of the entire level from far away. So it gives us a kind of it points to where we are physically. You can make it any shape you like. If you like something that suits your game, obviously, right? But it's got to work to give us almost like a radar of where enemies are and all that kind of stuff, right? You could even make it so that the map doesn't detect the enemies until the player's seen them for the first time. Once the player's seen them, fog of war comes away, and then they can see the other areas. You can, in fact, create a fog of war by making a large collider, right? This is a way of doing it. And the large circle collider, anything that it collides with when the player moves, it reveals part of the map, right, to the mini-map. So, like a trigger, another type of trigger. All right, let's see what this looks like now. And yes, we start, and you can see now we have our little mini-map here, right? And we can jump. Oh, that's bad. What happened to our control? That's really bad. That's an error. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. That's why it's important to check out what's happening here. All right, let's go back and see what the heck went wrong, and then we'll stop. So, VCam. All right, this is good. Our main camera has our Cinemachine brain. What is going on here? Minimap. We're doing for the render texture, and I wonder if this is causing an issue with my player. 10B. Sorry guys, want to make sure that I'm not cracked. So I do see this, right? It does track, but my virtual camera isn't working. It shows that. Moves the player. But now it's not tracking. It was before, right? So let's try an experiment before I do this. And I may have messed things up when I put the minimap in there, but I'm wondering if it registered in the camera. So whenever you add a new camera, right, the Cinemachine brain tries to figure out which camera is live, right? And I'm wondering if it messed up the main camera. But that's okay, because we can always put the Cinemachine brain back, and to find that, it already finds the CM camera 1. Let me just remove this one for a second. I'm just curious. If I remove the minimap cam and I build it, is it still broken? Because that's something that needs to be done. Take care, Alex. I guess he's gone too. All right. Let's see what we come up with. And I'm just curious. I'm not sure. Russell, did you fix your problem? Did you make it work? No. Okay, that's interesting. Mom, and yes, so that doesn't work now. Oh, and that's weird. But did it work before? I think it did work before. I saw it working before. So that's really weird that it's not happening. So that is something that is globally broken now, which I'm okay with. The VCam? Let's see. VCam, is it looking at the player? No. That's interesting. So I guess when I just deleted the player, let's put this back. That's a simple fix. So I'm going to put the main camera back. So on the VCam, the player should be moved onto it. And that is really strange-o-matic. But that's okay, because we can deal with that. Cool. Alright, so that's great. And let's build that. Build and run. And then we'll be done for today. I did, but you know, I wonder if when I added the second VCam, did it break everything? But it's okay. It's going to be fine now, it looks like. One thing to note also is that I have a black background, a white background with a white circle. It might be best for me to tint the white circle to black to create a black border. So, because right now this looks really big. You can solve everyone else's problem, but what, you know, not your own. We'll solve it together after everyone's gone. And after I finish my little demo. Alright, let's bring this back into play, and yay, it works again. And you can see this is pretty good, and it's actually a really good size. I don't see the enemy right now, but that's okay. Oh, that's really weird. Look at that. Why? It's disconnected again. It's almost like I lost the connection with my player object altogether as soon as I did that. So player health bar, my empty is the player. That is really weird. Really weird. Alright, let's try that again. Right, wow. Lots of little side effects, that's for sure. File, save, file, build, and run. Yep. It's like it exploded. The player just got removed from everything, right? Okay, Kevin, thanks so much. Take care. All right, Bohan. Just you and me, man. All right, let's take a look here and see what happens. Alright, so yeah, Sunnylands. Go in there, and now we see we have this there, and we have screen shake. Yes, it's all good, and it looks good. Excellent. Alright, so that fixed my problem. And the last thing we need to do is basically add a marker for the enemy. Alright, so let us do that really quick, and then you should be good. Alright, so it's the same thing. So the opossum, that's a good enemy. We can add in another object. So we'll say into this one we'll add a new, actually what we'll do is in the player, we're going to copy the player marker. I want to drag the player marker into the opossum. And nope, that is not, well, we're going to reset it. Reset. And we'll change the player marker. So instead of saying player marker, we'll change it to enemy marker. Enemy marker. Maybe if I can actually spell enemy marker properly. There it is, enemy marker. And enemy marker, we're going to change the shape to enemy marker, which is this one. And we're going to rotate the shape across the x-axis 90 degrees, or the z-axis. Oops, that's not what I wanted. I wanted rotation across the z 90, so it looks this way. And I wanted this to be 2 times scale. Right, and we're not going to see it in the real world because it is going to be layered way above everything else. So let's take a look and see what that looks like. So can't see the enemy, but when I go here and I go here, then you should be seeing the enemy walking around. There it is. There it is. So you can see the enemy here in our screen. which is what I wanted to show. You can see that there's an enemy coming, and it shows where the enemy's looking. Pretty cool. Alright, so one more cosmetic change and we're done. I want to go with the Minimap. So again, in the Minimap itself. Okay. So again, we did it here, but inside the Minimap camera, we have this camera. That's what this is. Oh, that's why it caused the problem. Let's get rid of this little script. That is sneaky. Delete. Hopefully that won't break stuff now. Minimap camera. Good, good, good. We've got this. And we want the minimap in the canvas. It's pretty sneaky. So the minimap, we will tint to make it black. And now what we'll see is that the simulator is going to show a black outline and a white inside, or it'll be the ocean, whatever. Okay. Can we make the minimap transparent? Absolutely. We can do all kinds of stuff. It's just a texture, so you can use you can tint the material of the texture. So, example, if you wanted to change the minimap, just like we tinted the actual thing, I can go to the mini render and see the color is nothing. So I can change the value. This goes to RGB values. I can change the value so that it is semi-transparent. The problem is because it has a background, the whole thing has to be, the whole minimap itself has to be transparent. So you have to change all the values. But yeah, it can be done totally. Alright, so that is pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that result. Let's pump it to the machine one more time, to the emulator, and then we're done. A little later than I wanted to, but we're done. And then I'll put this up on GitHub for you guys. Okay. Take care. Thank you. Have a good day. All right. Let me just stop sharing then, since I don't have to. We'll end that. And then we'll open up this. And we'll double click to make it here. So this is how it looks now. We can see, oops, he'll die. Again, for a little example, pretty good. And now we can see that the minimap is here. We can see the enemy there, so we can kind of move it so that way right? We're not completely killed until they move us back here. And even if we fall, we can see that we fall down into oblivion. So that's kind of a really high level view. Pretty simple and an ugly map right now, but pretty simple in terms of what we're seeing here compared to what we're seeing in here. Alright, that's it for me for this week. I think we've done a lot, and I'm going to put this up on GitHub and save everything for you guys, and you'll have everything for next week when we do more work on little special effects, little tweaking that we're going to do next week to make it all good. Alright, that's it for me. We'll talk next week. Take care.